Hi, and welcome to this channel. Thank you for finding this video. I'm hoping that in this video I will be able to talk about lesson planning a little bit. Now, before I even get into lesson planning, I want to say this, which I'm sure a lot of you might be like, he's right, but I'm not sure he's totally right. Here's the thing. You don't really need a lesson plan. I'm going to say it again. You don't need a lesson plan. If you're an experienced teacher, you should know that when you go to class, you know exactly what you're going to teach. You open up the page number, and then you go at it. Now, having said that, which I'm sure some of you might disagree with me, I will say, yes, we should have a lesson plan. Because a lesson plan is what it is, a lesson plan. It's a plan to do a lesson in a given session or in a given week. Now, most of us, when we teach, there are two ways. One is you just come to class, open up your book, and you just teach. That's one way of doing it. Nothing wrong. It's just maybe a lot of you have a very similar, this kind of style. But I believe when you have a lesson plan, you're a little bit more prepared. Lesson plan, to me at least, it's like talking points. You make sure that you cover certain points in a given session, so that way the following week or the following class, you can continue from that. So it's like reading a book. You go from one page, and then you go to the next page. But if you forgot what was going on, there's a simple way of flipping the page back and then going back and say, oh, what did I read last time? Now I know how the story continues. So the lesson plan is not for you to have just the lesson itself. It's like a page based on a story. If you're learning, let's say, a chapter about pronouns, for example, and your lesson plan is meant to say that, okay, this class, I am going to be talking about this, but this is what happened last class. So if you are doing lesson plan, you must understand that you must actually do the lesson plan at least for the week, or at least for 2 weeks, at least for the month. Some of us actually do lessons for the entire semester, which is actually a very good way of doing it, where we do what is known as the 60,000 feet view of the whole lesson, and then we break it up into chunks, and then we put it in each class, so that way when we are following our schedule, the students are also following. Now to me, I always let my students know that last week, what did we study? My classes meets once a week, so that's why I say that. So last week, what did we study? This week, what we're going to study? And next week, what we're going to study. So they always have a good idea of realizing or remembering that, oh, last week, this is what we did. So this week, this is what we're going to do. And next week, this is what's coming. So it gives them a very nice idea, like a trailer where they're not surprised, and they know that, oh, next week, this is what we're going to do. Now, having said all of that, like when you do a lesson plan, I put it up to 4 boxes. So if I have a paper, I will actually put it up to like 4 boxes. The first box would be my main lesson, the main lesson for the day, for the session. The second one would be a little bit of practice. So I do want to put enough time in my lesson so that kids can actually sit down and reflect on the lesson. So the second part would be a reflect. So the students get to reflect using their notebooks to write out certain things. So I will put notes over here. And then I will leave the third one side, and then I will go to the fourth part where I will give the introduction to what is coming. Like, I will give them the idea for the whole lesson, so that way they understand why they're learning that. Because that's important. Because if they know why they're learning it, their engagement level will go up a little bit more higher, because they will see the value in it. They will be like, okay, I understand why he's teaching this, because this helps me to do this and helps me to do that. So that is the fourth part, though. Okay, that is the results. The why we are learning it. But the third one, I try to leave a little bit of time in my sessions just for some fun. Because remember, students already study a lot of subjects. They do a lot. I mean, we were in school. We remember our homework load. Oh my God, is there so much going on? But remember, when we were in school, we did not have all these distractions. Social media, YouTube, Facebook, I mean, all that kind of stuff. Today's kids, their time is actually very limited, because they're trying to do a lot of things, and then they do get distracted by going into Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that. I mean, I was looking at my phone, and of course, I spend a lot of time online for research, because I really like researching, because I think it's so much fun. It's like very investigative, And I check my app. I have an app on my phone that tells me how many hours I spent or how many minutes did I spend on which app and stuff like that. And I was looking at it, and I spent nearly 4 hours, 4 hours yesterday on my phone. Oh my God. I looked at it at night and I was like, oh, that's not so good. Now, of course, I was not wasting time. Like, I wasn't watching movies or something like that. I was doing research, which is good. But still, 4 hours on my phone. I'm surprised that the battery didn't run out. But 4 hours is, in a given day, 4 hours is quite a lot, right? So anyway. So the third part, I will always leave it open for anything fun in the class. Sometimes I will play some games associated with my main lesson. Sometimes I will do some kind of like a video display, going with my main lesson. And then, of course, I might also do something that shows what is coming up. So this way, I allow my lesson plan to have a little bit of breathing room. So that way, I am talking about the main topic, so the students know what they're going to study. Then, of course, I have time for reflection, so the students can sit and write their notes. Then I walk around, see what they write, ask individual questions, or answer individual questions. Then, of course, I have the fun part right over here. Have some fun in class. And then the fourth part is the result, the why they are learning. This is so important. Now, when I am designing my own lesson plan, which I will put an episode when I'm doing it, I'll make a video on it so that you can see how I do it. I do incorporate a lot of things because I have mixed learners in my class. Because this is an international setting, there are some students in my class whose grasp of English is not as good as somebody else in the classroom. So I will try to do the same lesson, but I will try to teach it like 3 different ways. 3 different ways. So I will always tell my students, hey, listen, I'm going to talk about this. If you know, fine. If you don't know, this is a great time for you to pay attention so that you will learn it. But I will always explain the same lesson in 3 different ways. So I will explain it once on the board, then I have a projector screen on that side where I will project it over there, the same thing, but a little bit different, so that the kids may learn this, and then they will learn it again in a different way on the screen. And then the third one is they will learn it on their notebooks when they're doing their reflection. So each kid will have an opportunity of 3 times to learn the exact same lesson in 3 different ways. So I'm hoping that one of those ways will help them to understand the lesson and what's involved in the lesson and what is the ultimate goal of that lesson. Doing a lesson plan is really not a bad thing. But remember, it's a lesson plan. It's not what is happening that day. So I leave myself a little bit of flexibility time in my lesson plan. Because sometimes you may come into a classroom and the students are just not there. In the sense that they're physically there, but mentally they're so distracted. Maybe they have an upcoming exam, maybe they just finished an exam, or they just did some big project, now they're exhausted. And I want to recognize that. And I want to tell students, okay guys, listen, we're just going to do a short lesson. And then let's do a lot of fun stuff based on that lesson and based on some other stuff. So anything that I will do fun is always related to the subject. So I will give myself that flexibility to have the lesson plan a little bit open, like a few holes in the lesson plan. So that way my students don't feel stressed and I don't feel like, oh my God, they're not there, but I have to do my lesson because I have to do it. That's a little bit too much. Like, I'd rather have the students engage and learn. Because if I'm going to just be here talking about this and they're not learning anything, then what's the point? I'm just wasting time. And that's not the job of a teacher. The job of a teacher is to make sure that the students love learning and they're totally engaged in the subject so that they learn something, even if it's one thing per class. How do you learn? Sometimes certain lessons are really massive. And if you throw the whole thing at them, they will be like, oh my God, that's just too much information, it's an overload. And then they will just totally switch off. All their connections will switch off in their head because they just like, oh, wow, this is too much. Like, I remember there was a parable. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. So there was a preacher that went to a village somewhere to preach. And you know what? He was there on stage, and he was looking around, and he just saw only one farmer in the audience. And he was like, where's everybody else? I'm ready to teach and to do my sermon, but there's only one guy there. So he walks down the podium and goes to the farmer, and he said, hey, listen, I don't know what to tell you. I was waiting for more people to show up, but only you're here. I apologize. So the farmer was very nice, and the farmer said, preacher, just go ahead and do your thing. Just go ahead and preach. Even I'm here, it's okay. So the preacher was like, that's fine. Even if one farmer is there, that's good enough. So he came back onto the podium and he was like, okay, I'm going to preach, right? So he started preaching, and he was preaching away, did his sermon, did everything beautifully. But there was still one farmer sitting in the audience. So he walked down later on and he said to the farmer, like, hey, mister, how was the sermon, And the farmer was like looking at him. Preacher, the sermon was fantastic, it was fantastic. But you know what? It's like when I go to feed my cows, and if one shows up, I will not dump the entire hay to that one cow. I will just feed only that one cow. So the idea is, like, when you're a teacher in a classroom, is you understand how much information to hand out or how much information not to hand out in a given situation. So you may have 2 pages of lesson to do, but if your class is not there mentally because they are stressed out or they finished their work or something like that, then you adjust. And that's why it's known as a lesson plan. I have more to talk, and of course I'll make some more videos. So if you like this kind of video, you thought what I said was kind of okay, or you disagreed with what I said, maybe put it in the comments, let me know, tell me your thoughts. That will be nice, because remember, when you're a teacher, you're also a student. You're always learning. So thank you for your visit, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.